Stoicism, is it compatible with Christianity? So, first we need to define Stoicism. Stoicism is an ancient Hellenistic philosophy that is defined as Christianity. A philosophy of indifference to pleasure or that is defined as Christianity. There's a lot more to Stoicism. A philosophy of indifference to quite a bit that is with the philosophy of Stoicism. There is a rejection. Stoicism, a philosophy of indifference. There is quite a rejection of materialism. The philosophy of Stoicism. There is a rejection. Stoicism, a philosophy of one of the most famous Stoics was the philosophy of Stoicism. There is a rejection. Stoicism, philosophy of one of the most famous Stoics was the philosophy of Stoicism. There is a rejection. Stoicism, philosophy of one of the most famous Stoics. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Apple Mark? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think you can. All right, my apologies. I forgot to set something. All right, so I'll just get started. In the title, as you can read, is Stoicism, is it compatible with Christianity? And to define Stoicism, it is the philosophy of indifference to pleasure and pain. There's so much more to Stoicism than that. And as I was getting into, one of the most famous Stoics is the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Here he was, the wealthiest, most powerful man in the world at his time, in the Roman world, the Roman emperor. He could have surrounded himself with wealth and pleasure and instant gratification, but he had embraced Stoicism. He had rejected all of that. He had rejected materialism. He lived a simple life. He had a simple routine. I'm not really going to get into that too much today, but there were some things that he talked about and other Stoics talked about, such as beginning your day by looking at the possibilities, the negative possibilities that could happen throughout the day and preparing for it. And I've actually said this before, that if you prepare for the worst case scenarios, that whatever happens after that is a piece of cake, right? It's the same kind of thing. Well, the interesting thing about the Stoics that makes it the most compatible, it's not just the rejection of materialism and instant gratification, which is obviously compatible with Christianity. It is recognizing what you can change and focusing on that, and identifying what you cannot change in your life and being indifferent towards it, letting it go. As a Christian, we would say, leave your cares to God, right? Leave it at the cross. Give it to the cross. And so, as a Christian, if you're going to use Stoic thought, which as a Christian you likely already are, you just as I was when I first read this. I've been wanting to do this video for a very, very, very long time. You will be reminded of the Serenity Prayer, which is a portion of the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. The Serenity Prayer: God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, as a Christian, you would recognize, well, first you'd take, of course, you'd recognize, let me start over with this. Got to get tongue-tied here. Recognize what in your life you can affect, you can make changes to, right? What do you have control over in your life? Recognize that. Take personal responsibility for your actions that have led to whatever circumstances you are in and decide how are you going to change that. But you cannot change the actions and thoughts of other people. You cannot change circumstances in the world around us. We look at politically. This channel's not political anymore. It's a ministry, and so I'm not going to get into specifics, but there's craziness going on politically in the world, and really the only real thing that you can do is cast your vote at the ballot box. There's not really a whole lot more you can do. So recognize that. Now, when you let that go and don't allow yourself to worry about things that you have absolutely no control over, and you just give it to God, and you pray to God, just, God, I give this to you. I pray that your will be done, that you work this out. It's freeing. You should only worry about things that you really can change. So is Stoicism, the philosophy of Stoicism, compatible with Christianity? Absolutely it is. A rejection and indifference to materialism and pleasure and pain and living a simple life, recognizing what in our lives we can change, and focusing on that and letting go of the things we can't change and just give it to God. Just give it to God. You know, the happiest people in life that I have met have lived simple lives. Some of the happiest people I have ever met in my life were not in the United States. They didn't have all the material pleasures that we have. Some of the happiest people I met were in Bosnia and Afghanistan. Yes, Afghanistan. They had, according to American standards, nothing. They didn't have running water. They didn't have electricity. They had open sewers. They had nothing. They were some of the happiest people. Same in Bosnia. Not to that same degree of not having pleasures, but they lived a simple life. I tell you, in Bosnia, I didn't see not one fat person that wasn't elderly. They didn't all have cars, and they walked and rode bikes all over the place. I mean, that part of the world is it's a slower paced life. It's enticing when you come from the United States with, everything that we've got, instant gratification. You're hungry, take something out of the freezer, put it in the microwave. If your fridge is empty, go to the grocery store. You're out running errands and you realize you're hungry and you want something to eat, go through the drive-thru. Instant gratification. In those parts of the world, they don't have those kinds of things. Simple things. Happiness. I'm not saying that life in this world is going to be easy and fun and happy, but if you can take something from this video, I would say learn from the Stoics. Learn to let go of what you can't control. Just let it go. Be indifferent towards it. There's nothing you can do, right? There's nothing in the United States you can do to affect the price of bologna in France. That's something my grandpa used to always say, right? Those funny old time sayings, I've got probably 1,000 of them my grandpa used to say. Just let it go. Give it to God. Just give it to God. You know, in the end, everything works out. You know, people talk about the end of the world and the second coming of Christ and the apocalypse. And I say, if you're worried about that, if you're a Christian, remember this: we win in the end. As bad as it may get, we win in the end. There wasn't a sermon this last Sunday. I wanted to kind of talk about that for a moment. I went on a trip last weekend. I didn't get back until, let me see, early Monday morning. I had gone to Maryland. It was a good trip. It was Western Maryland, up in the mountains. It was beautiful. We left just before, or I guess just as an ice storm was coming in. So that's why there wasn't a sermon there. So there's been some amazing things happening in my life that, as of late, just amazing. I mean, God is good. God is good, and He is good all the time. Amen. Next Friday, this coming Friday, on the 1st, March 1st, I'm closing on the house I'm buying. Originally, it was going to be on the 5th, but it's been moved back to March 1st, which is good. Frostburg. I was up around... I was in Oakland, Maryland, is where I was at. Up around Oakland, Maryland. I mean, you go, 30 minutes north and you're in Pennsylvania, and 30 minutes south you're in West Virginia. Hagerstown, I mean, I don't really know all the towns up there. There was a Friendsburg up there. There was a Friendsburg, Applemark. Thanks for coming, by the way. So I'm buying a house. I've met someone. She's pretty amazing. So there's that. I mean, everything, man, I tell you, when you just give it all to God and you just trust in God and you know, man, everything just comes together. So I'm reminded of a dream that I had last summer, and it just now has come to me what that dream meant. And I think a big reason why I'm just now coming to it is because I had told someone about this dream, and they had kind of claimed that to mean something for themselves, and so I didn't think about it anymore. So I had this dream. It was an apocalyptic dream. This dream was in the third person, and whenever I have a dream, whenever God speaks to me in a dream, it's always in the third person. So I know this dream was from God. And in this dream, it's apocalyptic fire is engulfing the globe, just spontaneous fires. And I'm in the woods in this glen surrounded by forest, and I'm standing before a cross set in a stone pedestal. And I kneel down before the cross, and then this spontaneous fire from the woods on the other side of the cross, and it just consumes, rushes towards me and consumes and surrounds me. But I am saved, that myself and the cross are saved from those flames. And then immediately after, as the flames have passed, new growth is coming up from the earth. New growth, new plant life. Immediately, new plant life. And I should have seen this then, but I didn't. You know, I had gone through over a decade of just turmoil and pain and just trying to come to terms with the things that I had witnessed and experienced. I was about as low as a person can get in their life. while still having a roof over their head. And when I began to everything really changed when I learned to stop praying for my will to be done, right? Instead of praying, God, give me this. God, I want this. God, give me this. When I began to pray, God, reveal to me your will. And he did. And then I began to pray and to pursue his will in my life. Everything began to change. Everything. When I began to pray, God, use me as an instrument of your will to bless others, then it truly began to change. And I am now at that place in my life where everything that I had lost just a few short years ago is being returned to me by God, who has brought everything back into my life. Now, I'm not saying my life is peaches and roses, and I'm not saying at all that that's what God is doing, but I'm saying the blessings of God when you turn yourself over to him, those things that you cannot change in your life, give it to God. If you want to know what you are to do in your life, don't pray for what you want it to be. Pray to God. God, reveal to me your will in my life, and seek after that. There's going to be trials and hardships. Just last month, the whole month of January, up until, well, almost the whole month, was nothing but just turmoil and spiritual attacks and friendships lost. And I thought I was at the end of my rope at one point. And I just gave it to God, and I just prayed. I said, Lord, your will be done. Your will be done. Give me, now this is probably one of the most common things I pray, is when I'm going through those trials and tribulations and hardships, I will just pray, God, give me the peace and serenity to get through this. Give me the strength and the wisdom to make the decisions that I need to make. When you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're overcome with anxiety over the future, which happens when you worry about things you cannot change, things begin to be bigger than they actually are, and it becomes difficult to make those decisions. When you then give it to God, give it to God. Just give it to God. Just lay it down at the cross. God, I give this to you. The worry and the anxiety begins to settle, begins to go away. And then God gives you that peace of mind, that serenity, and he will give you the wisdom to make the right decisions. If you're overcome with anxiety or depression, whatever it may be, you're just overwhelmed. Maybe you might be mentally or emotionally just drained. That is not the time to make life-altering decisions. Give it to God. Seek his peace. Seek his peace. You know, so I was in the office for the complex here where I live, and I've become pretty close friends with the apartment manager. Not like we hang out outside of this, but I mean, I go in there and I just talk to them sometimes, listen to their problems, what's going on in their lives, minister to them, pray with them. And I was sitting there talking to the apartment manager, and she's like, Chris, the changes in your life just since I've known you. And she wasn't the apartment manager when I first moved in. She's been here about maybe a year to a year and a half. And she's like, you're not even the same man. You're so different. The peace of God is just, and she's a Christian, the peace of God is just all over you. And it is. I mean, I'm not saying I don't get sad, and I'm not saying I don't get upset. I'm human, right? I have gone from being this person that was easily angered, easily upset, overcome by stress. Well, now people are saying, Chris, you're like a rock. Now, here's the thing. There's times where that is what is projected, but inside I'm struggling. However, there's never a conflict that comes before me that I don't just give it to God. God, show me your will. How am I to resolve this? Is this something that I can resolve? If not, I just give it to you. Before I even knew the definition of Stoicism, what the philosophy of Stoicism was, I mean, I knew of it, but actually before I dug into it, I was already applying those Stoic tenets in my life. I was identifying what in my life I could change and those that I couldn't, and just focusing on the things that I could. I was already living or going at least towards a more minimalistic life. I only have cable television because it's free in my rent. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it. I don't watch TV. People talk about new shows that are coming out now, or that have been coming out in the last year or so. I don't know anything about them. I haven't watched them. You know what Marcus Aurelius talked about, in the morning, identifying the things in your life that, or throughout the day, the things that could happen during the day, the worst case scenarios. I've been doing that for years. Before I leave the house, I think of every possible, that I can think of anyway, every possible thing that may possibly happen, something that may, like some kind of conflict. There might be a car accident. There could be a conflict with someone in a store, whatever it may be. And I think about it and I process it before I leave the house. So what is here? So what is here? Thanks for coming. So what? Thanks for coming. Yeah, I've been doing that for years, just identifying before I leave the house. Anybody who knows me, and there's some of my subscribers who know me well enough that I've told them that. Stoicism is absolutely compatible with Christianity. I would be careful not to allow Stoicism to replace your faith. You still need God. That was back in ancient Rome, that was a thing. You had those who were religious, right? You had, whether it be the Christians or the Mithraic cult, or the Religio Romana, the ancient Roman religion, and then you had your philosophers, your Stoics. But we see that Stoic thought is absolutely, at least to a degree, part of modern Christian thought, and I would say even early, the earliest of Christians. So I'm gonna try to stay live here for a while. It's been a while since I've actually done a live stream like this. So Apple Mark or So What, or anybody else who's watching, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask. Any questions? There is a little bit of a delay here. You know, I tell you, I'm blown away day after day. I mean, anytime I stop and think, I'm just absolutely blown away by the amazing things that God has done in my life. Your favorite food, what is it? My favorite food is all food except for beets and cream corn. I literally love literally all other foods. Steak from the cow, yep, steak is good. So I really love pasta. I really love pasta. Spaghetti, lasagna, stuff like that. Italian food. I really love Mexican food. And fortunately for me, I have an aunt who was born and raised in Mexico. I get better Mexican food at my aunt and uncle's house than I could get at any of these restaurants around here. I mean, we're talking from scratch, authentic Mexican food. It's amazing. I love my Aunt Chepa is amazing. Anybody who knows anything about Mexican nicknames, Chepa means nosy. That was her nickname since she was a kid. I love my Aunt Chepa for more than just her food. My Aunt Chepa is amazing. She is hilarious too. Fruits are good. Yep, I like fruit. I don't eat as much fruit as I should, or I'd even like to. I mean, the thing is, when I go grocery shopping, I try to get everything I can for the month, right? I currently, I'm a bachelor, right? So I don't want to go to the grocery store any more than I have to. So if I buy fruit, well, you buy fruit, it's not going to last the month. Say you love fish and seafood. I love fish. Baked fish, fried fish. I'm telling you, the woman that marries me, whatever she puts on the table for dinner, I'm going to love it. Unless it has beets and cream corn. I'm going to love it, and you're going to know that I love it. Yeah, so I make an amazing baked fish, and it's a really simple recipe, and I actually got it from the Army. I asked someone at the dining facility how they made it, and they told me. So you take your aluminum foil and your fish. The fish can even be frozen. It doesn't have to, or it can be fresh or unthawed. And you put butter in with the fish and seasonings like lemon and pepper, garlic. I tend to add like Italian seasoning or oregano and basil, stuff like that. Like season it and then wrap it up in the aluminum foil. And then you bake it in the oven, and you can do mass amounts of fish this way, like massive amounts. That's why the Army does it, right? You bake it at, I believe it was 350 for about 40 to 45 minutes. I mean, that varies based on your elevation where you live, but about 350 degrees for 40, 45 minutes. It comes out tender, juicy, flavorful. It is amazing. You got to try it. And then, of course, what country boy doesn't like a fish fry, right? Yeah, that's, so what? That's 350 degrees Fahrenheit. 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's good. It's good. Really good. If you cook it too long, of course, it all just falls apart. It's just mush. And as far as how much butter you put in, like 1 tablespoon of butter is what I do. 1 tablespoon of butter should be enough. It's probably not really good on your arteries if you have a heart condition, but you know what? Freedom. I'm going to eat what I want. You're getting hungry? You know, so there's a few things that I talk about. Pretty much is the only things I talk about with people. God, guns, and food. Those are my 3 most common topics I talk about. God, guns, and food. Oh, man. Lately, pretty much the most, the one restaurant I eat at the most, it's almost become an obsession with me, is Denny's. I go to Denny's multiple times a week. I have my own table. You know, when you go into Denny's, I mean, it's like a diner, but you have to stop, you know, there when you get in there and wait to be seated. They all know me. I walk in. If my table is free, I grab the menu and my silverware, and I go sit. I don't wait to get seated. I'm there so much. Whenever I hear SB talk about food, I get hungry. I was fat when I was a kid. So I was fat for a time as an adult, but not as a kid. I was one of those kids that had an extremely high metabolism, and I could eat and eat and eat, and I always ate, and I was always hungry. I could eat a full big meal, and an hour later, I'm vanished again, especially when I was a teenager. Like, somebody. Okay, I get you. You know, I just eat. I remember I was 16 years old, and I ate, and these weren't little. These were big. I ate 14 sloppy joes in one sitting. So what? I know you're in Germany. I don't know if you know what a sloppy joe is. It's like ground beef, and it's like you used to be able to get it in a can called Manwich, but it's got like a tomato sauce and some peppers and stuff, and you put that in there after you brown the meat, and then you cook it down until it's fairly thick, and then you put it on a bun, right? Sloppy joes. I ate 14 big sloppy joes in one sitting. I was 16. I just couldn't stop. I just love food. I've always loved food. I mean, so what? You probably remember this because I was over on, you know, Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks channel. I was always talking about how I was a hobbit and always talking about food. Well, that's like how I really am all the time. Like you mention food, I get hungry. Love my food. Yeah, I think I know what it is. Yes, but we don't have it here. Well, you can make sloppy joe on your own without having the canned Manwich. Just add a small 1 pound. I don't know what that is in metric, but 1 pound of ground beef or the equivalent. 1 can of tomato juice, and then chop up some like green peppers. Chop it up kind of small and put that in there. And there's probably some other seasonings you can add. I'm going to tell you, I put garlic in just about everything I cook. So I would probably just tell you add some garlic. But you could add whatever. Some salt. Add some salt, maybe some pepper. And then simmer it down until it's fairly thick. And then put it on a hamburger bun. Boom. Sloppy joe. Apple Mark says, do you not go over there anymore? Metric pound is 500 grams. Okay. I really don't. I'm going to be honest. I've never done weight measurements in the metric system. I've only done distance measurements, changing from, you know, yards to meters. I've never done weight, so I have no idea. You could probably look it up. I mean, it doesn't have to be the exact, you know, just whatever whatever you a single unit of hamburger meat is that you would buy, right? You know, just go with that. It doesn't have to be exact. It's super easy. You can make sloppy joes like that. I mean, it's probably 30 minutes. You got a meal. It'll feed a whole family. You struggle with temperatures. 15 degrees Celsius is 59 degrees Fahrenheit, I remember. Yeah, the only thing I know about that is that 0 degrees Celsius is 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Beyond that, I have no clue. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. Yep. Apple Mark says 1 pound is 453 grams. So yeah, 500 grams should be good. But this weight system is different again. Well, I mean, 500 grams isn't that much more than 453. 2.2 pounds is 1 kilogram. Is that right? Yeah. There you go. Oh, so my friend is not here to share this testimony, so I'm going to share his testimony. He's probably going to see this. So, a friend, this is a real life friend, and this guy's amazing. He's an amazing guy. And you get us together, and it's just nonstop laughs. So you get my humor, which could be a little bit over the top, and then he's got this really cool humor about him. There's some that's like self-deprecating humor, but there's also this like sarcastic humor that he goes into, and so we get to playing off each other. It's really amazing. He's just a hilarious guy, an amazing guy, big-hearted guy, loyal. This guy would do anything for you if you're a friend of his. I'll tell you though, you don't want to cross him. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not kidding. He's got the body for it too. He's like, I don't know, 5'8" and about 200 pounds. I mean, he's built like a wrestler. Well, he was a wrestler. So anyway, so he met this woman several years ago, many years ago, and they went out on dates, and they got real close, and then she had a family emergency where she had to move up to Montana. And they've kept in contact long distance this whole time. When she first moved up there, he was down in Lexington, Kentucky. And then he moved up here sometime last year, I believe. And he ended up staying with me for a little bit, up until, well, yesterday. And when I say a little bit, I mean just a couple weeks, just a few weeks. And when he first moved in, he's still talking to her. And, you know, when you're talking to a gal, but it's like, it's just there, but not there. You know what I mean? Well, anyway, something just clicked between them. And then suddenly it's like they cannot be separated. They have to be together. And so he is right now, as we speak, driving. Well, he left last night here from Louisville, Kentucky area, and is driving to far northwestern Montana. It's over 1,900 miles. He's driving in his car. He's like, I got to see her. I'm moving. All his stuff, what money he had, and he's up to be with the woman he loves. It was like a fairy tale ending to this whole several year-long journey he's had with her. And I met him at church is where I met him at. He's just a great guy. He's just a really, really great guy. And I'm so happy to see everything. Oh, and if he marries her, his father-in-law is in the gun industry, like an executive in the gun industry. I'm not going to go beyond that. I want to be careful not to share any. Let me just say, he goes to SHOT Show in Las Vegas, Nevada every year and has a booth. I'll say this. So that is an amazing testimony. Just how when I first met him, he was struggling, and then just his whole life just came together, and now he's moving up there to be with the woman he loves. And yeah, I mean, he's like, you're gonna marry us, right? You're gonna be the pastor to marry us. And I'm like, you got it, I'll do it when we get there. So kind of coming back to the topic here, when you let go of the things you cannot change, you let go of all that worry, and you just give it to God, it's freeing. It frees you and allows you. And then when you start focusing on the things you can change and the things that matter, your life starts coming into place. God begins to move in your life. So amazing. There's no need getting worried and worked up over things you can't change. But what you can, put your whole heart in it. Think about it. Would you drive 1,900 miles to be with the woman you love? Really? With just a little bit more of money than you need to get there. Going out on faith, trusting in God to get you there, 1,900 miles. He trusts God. God is faithful. He's going to get there. And I believe this weekend, today, tonight, and then there's a blizzard coming through parts of Montana that he may be going through. Wow. All for love. Good guy. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. All right. Do we have any more questions from anybody? Any of our viewers? Well, it'd be Apple Mark and So What. You've been the only ones to comment so far. That's what I'm doing in Knoxville. I moved from People's Republic of Austin for that reason. That in Austin is a freak show now. You know, I've heard that. You're talking about Austin, Texas, right? I've heard that Austin was pretty far on that end of the political spectrum. Yep, Knoxville. You know, Kentucky's not a bad state. The only thing that would keep me from moving to Kentucky, I'm actually just on the Indiana side. Yeah, InfoWars broadcast from there. Kentucky has horrible auto insurance because they're a no-fault state, right? So if you get in a car accident, well, Apple Mark, you know this, but for anybody else never been to Kentucky or doesn't know what this is, if you're in an accident in Kentucky, no matter whose fault it is, your insurance pays for the repairs on your car. Doesn't matter. So because every insurance company is paying out on every single claim, your premiums are 2-3 times as much. Whereas here in Indiana, if you're in an accident, it's the other person's fault, you don't pay nothing. Your car's fixed by their insurance. They pay the deductible. When I actually was in an accident the end of January in my truck. It wasn't my fault. Someone just hooked a hard left at an intersection right in front of me as I was going through the intersection. I had nowhere to go, right? Well, it was her fault because she crossed traffic. I didn't pay anything. Fixed everything. If that was Kentucky, I'd have had my deductible. My insurance would have paid. I'll tell you, when I was talking to the insurance company, her insurance company over the phone, she asked me if I was okay, and I said, I drink my coffee black. I'm good. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been in so many accidents. I don't know, but I didn't even have a stiff neck from it. Oh, boy. Oh, I'm likely, maybe, still up in the air. Not entirely sure exactly when it's going to happen, but I'm going to be going on another road trip to Georgia. I don't know if I've said this before. I probably have. I absolutely love Georgia, the state of Georgia, southern United States. To those watching not from the United States, southern United States, it's sandwiched between Tennessee and South Carolina to the north and Florida to the south. Southern Georgia is just it's beautiful. I love Georgia, love it. I did basic training down at Fort Benning, Georgia. It's the home of the infantry. So there's that part of it too. It's like as an infantryman, that's always home, right? But Georgia, it's just a beautiful, beautiful state. Anybody watching, if you haven't been to Georgia, go. A refugee from Baltimore. I don't know that I'd want to go to Baltimore. I don't even want to live here in the Louisville area. And that's not even considered a big city. I mean, it's sizable, but it's still, as far as American cities go, is on the small scale of cities. There's too many people here for me. The only thing I like is the everything, the convenience of it all. Like, if I could walk to the store, any store that I need, and I wouldn't even need a car if I didn't want one. If I didn't want to, own one, I could walk or take the bus, public transport. I mean, talking about cars here, something about, was that what Alex Jones drives? You were saying the Dodge Challenger Hellcat. I'll tell you, I will never drive anything but a truck. When I get married, I'm gonna write my own vows. She's gonna write her own vows, and one thing that better be in her vows is, I vow to never make you drive a foo-foo car. I will, you know what I mean? Like one of those. The other day, I pulled into the library, public library, and I pulled in next to this, those smart cars. Like it doesn't have a back seat. That car would fit in the bed of my truck. It fit in the bed, like if you had it's just a little bit smaller and you had two of them, you'd have roller skates. I mean, they're tiny little cars. I refuse to drive a smart car or a Mini Cooper or a Prius or any kind of little. You know what? I refuse to drive anything but a truck at this point, unless I absolutely have to. They say once you get a truck, you'll never go back to driving a car, and it's true. I mean, at least it is for me. I love my truck. So I drive a Ford F-150, and it's got a V8. It's the exact same V8 that is in the 5.0 Mustangs, just with a lower gear ratio. I mean, I love my truck. I love it. GMC Sierra, those are good trucks. I'm a Ford guy, but those are good trucks. You love your BMW? Or you loved your BMW? Yeah. So the vehicle I had before I got my truck was a Camaro, Chevy Camaro. And I thought I loved that Camaro until I got my truck. And I'm like, I'm done with cars. I mean, I can do anything with my truck that I could have done with that Camaro. Plus, it's four-wheel drive. Plus, it's got usefulness. I can tow, I can haul. I mean, I'm going to be able to move the vast majority of my stuff to the new house next month without getting a U-Haul. Just throw it in the bed of my truck, drive over to where I'm going, and unload it. I mean, right? I need to get lumber to do repairs or into the house or addition or whatever. Throw it in the truck. I'm good. I couldn't do that with a Camaro. You know, big thing I was thinking about when I got the truck was, you know, I want to go hunting, right? I want to go hunting. I want to go deer hunting. Where, if I get a deer, where am I going to put that on my Camaro? Am I going to strap it to the hood of my car? Well, I just throw it in the bed of the truck. So it says, okay, what would be your dream car, Chris and Apple Mark? What is my... Okay, I think we're back. Okay, I'm back. I had a little problem there. So, my dream car... I would say just a bigger version of my truck. Maybe a F350. An F350. An F350 with a lift kit and oversized tires. Kind of ruining the whole, you know, ability to tow things, but the off-road potential, going mudding, just, yeah. My dream car, Range Rover Defender, totally tricked out for photo shooting. Yeah. Range Rovers are pretty cool. I really do like the Jeep Wrangler, the four-door Wranglers that they came out a couple years ago. Those are pretty cool. Or get a, you know, just a more traditional two-door and trick it out like the Jeep from the old, I think it was the second Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie. I think it was the second one. That was a cool looking Jeep. That was a really cool looking Jeep. So, anybody tuning in now, at this point, you've seen the title. I mean, you've heard us talking about cars and food and all that stuff, but just kind of bring it back just for a moment. For anybody tuning in the title, is Stoicism compatible with Christianity? Stoicism is the philosophy of indifference. Focus on the things you can change, and the things you can't, you let it go. Indifferent towards pleasure and pain, rejection of materialism, a simple life. Yes, it's compatible with Christianity. Yeah, the F350s are amazing trucks. The 250s are too. Patience via Stoicism. Yeah, patience is a virtue, and being patient, I mean, those things you can't change, you give it to God and just be patient that God's going to work it out. Yeah. And even when it comes to the things that you can change, there's, you know, you need to be patient with it. And sometimes the things that you can change may take a while to change. So what says, I choose aggression. I know it is wrong. So what, you know this, we were both soldiers, right? There is a time for aggression and there's a time not. I mean, even in the military, you have that, right? And there's violence in the world, and sometimes righteous violence is necessary. And what I mean by righteous violence is defending your family, defending your home, defending your country. That is righteous violence. However, punching someone in the mouth, knocking them to the ground, and curb stomping them until they're, unconscious in a coma or worse because they, I don't know, disrespected you, I would say that's the wrong kind of aggression and violence. Well, so what? You say that, you recognize it. By recognizing it, you know what you need to work on. That's the first step. First step. So, yeah, am I a good hunter? Yes and no. I'm going to say yes and no, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, let me just say this. I have, not of any fault of my own, been out in a tree stand, not just all day, but like all weekend, right? Just coming in at night. I have never shot a deer because I've never seen one while I was hunting deer. I'm not lying. Back in the 90s, Perry County, where I grew up, there was deer, but it was a very thin population. Now, there's deer everywhere. I mean, goodness. I mean, I'm patient. But it don't matter how patient you are, if the deer don't show up, I mean, what are you going to do? All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it for the day. I need to work on tomorrow's sermon some more. Yep. So I'll just leave you with this. Consider adding into your life a more minimalistic lifestyle. Learning to identify what the things that you cannot change and just give it to God. Identifying the things you can change and focusing on that. Seek after the will of God, not your own will. You'll live a much happier life. God bless you all. God is love. God bless.
I could fly away with you. 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 There'd be no place that I'd want to hide. There'd be no limits to where we could fly. There'd be no place that